about today is going over the changes that happened in the January release on the WITS VMS. There are a couple of changes that are going to impact each of you. So we wanted to do these two-day demos where we will show the impact of all of these changes. I'm recording that session right now. That means that if somebody from your team wants to see that demo and couldn't attend today, then they will be able to see that, to download that from the work website. And I'm going to mute everybody so that I don't have any feedback, but I will unmute you when I will request people to give their feedback or their questions or comments. Okay, so let's get started. Hopefully everybody's in. So what we want to talk about today, we want to review the changes that occurred in the January release for ATR. And the changes that impacted everybody. So the core changes that happened, the first one I want to talk about is the ATR fund management. We made some changes to that screen where we are now able to collect some budget information at the grant year level. The other big change that happened this month is the key activities. So at the ATR contract level, we are providing some additional flexibility on the activities that the provider within your network will be able to render. So you know that there is this agency flag that says ATR case management, yes or no. This flag is going to be replaced by these key activities, and I'm going to show you how that works. And I'm going to demo a different scenario where this can be used. So this is the extent of the very core functionalities that are going to impact each of you. Then some of you have requested to have the RSS questionnaire turned on, and some of you have requested to have the recovery plan module turned on in your instance. So whoever is on the call and didn't request to have the RSS questionnaire recovery plan, you don't need to stay for that part of the demo. You can stay if you want to see what it looks like. And I can hear my echo, but I'm going to deal with it. Okay, so let's jump into the system. The system I want to show you is the standard ATR only. The standard ATR only is the instance that has the bare bones with VMS functionality. That means that it's the base, are the base functionalities for with VMS, and it doesn't have any of the customizations that you may have for your instance. So don't be scared if you don't see that the client profile doesn't look like the one you have. Each of you within your state, you have your own customization. This is just the standard functionalities of with VMS, and this is what I have chosen to use today to show you these new functionalities. Okay. I'm going to log in as the context of a contracting agency. Let's make my screen a little bigger. Okay. I'm assuming everybody can see my screen. I'm going to unmute. Let me know if you have issues seeing my screen. I have unmuted everybody. Okay. So let's continue. And let me mute. On the agency profile, all of you know that we have this ATR case manager flag that is set to yes or to no. When that flag is set to yes, currently, this means that it's the agency that is going to create the client, create the GIPRA, create the voucher, and the referrals. If the case manager is set to no, then that's just a provider agency that only receives the voucher and creates the encounters for billing. So this is what we have, and this flag is what has been used for ATR2. It was very useful for ATR2. But when we met with each of the new grantees for ATR3, we figured out that we needed more flexibility for determining which activities will each provider within the ATR network will need to be able to do within this ATR process. So that flexibility is now put at the contract level. When you will create a contract with each of your provider agencies within your network, you are going to define what we call key activities. I'm going to show you one of these contracts with a care coordination agency. This is the contract screen. I'm going to the plans. When you're adding the ATR3 plan to your contract, you will see that there is this key activities link that is now showing up. This key activities link is now opening that key activities page where I will be able to select for that contract which key activities will the provider agency be able to do for ATR. These are all of the activities that we have. This agency will be able to create an ATR intake and edit an ATR intake, create a GIPRA intake, edit a GIPRA intake, create a GIPRA follow-up, edit a GIPRA follow-up, create a GIPRA discharge, edit a GIPRA discharge, create a referred voucher, edit a referred voucher, and create a local voucher, edit a local voucher. This agency has all of these key activities. This means that it is the equivalent of having the agency profile link, ATR case management flag on the agency profile set to yes. So if for any agencies that you will have already set up in your training and production site, when the flag is set to yes, the contracts of that agency would all be updated with all of the selected key activities. So we have the data migration in place to make that happen when you deploy the January release on your site. So this is my care coordination agency that will be able to do all of these different activities. I'm going to show you another contract. I also have a contract with a provider agency. Provider Jones is a provider agency. And within that contract, the key activities that I have for this provider is none. None means that the provider agency won't be able to do any of these key activities. And this is the equivalent of having the flag on the agency profile set to no. So far, so good, right? Now, maybe some of you may have some agencies, some providers that will be providing ATR services, but that will also be doing the GIPRA discharge for the client. In that case, within the contract that you have with that provider agency, you will be able to go into that key activities screen and give to that contract for that provider the create GIPRA discharge and edit GIPRA discharge. That means that that provider agency will be able to create a discharge GIPRA and should be the only thing they are able to do. Maybe some of you also have some agencies, and I'm going to answer your question, Joe, in a minute. Maybe some of you may have an agency that do the follow-up. So I know that some of you on the line have agencies that do follow-up, and that's the only thing they do. In this case, within the contract that you have, you will be able to associate the key activities for that follow-up agency, where they will be able to do a GIPRA follow-up interview. So that's how you can differentiate the key activities that each of your agencies that are part of your ATR network will be able to do. And I'm going to unmute everybody. Joe, you have a question?
Yeah, I had a quick question about the flag about case management agency. So if I understand correctly, if case manager is set to yes on the agency profile, right now that overrides, that allows all key activities for ATR, is that correct?
Yes, this is the way it is right now if you are running the December release on your production site.
Okay, so if going forward we add new agencies for ATR, is it better to leave that flag set to no and then use the key activity to identify which ATR activities the agency should be doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. This flag is now replaced by the key activities on the contract plan screen. So this is the intent, and we are going to drop that flag on the agency profile at some point. We still have that flag in there for a couple of reasons. One of them is a screen like the agency voucher list. That screen right currently is looking at your context. If you are a case management agency, the administrative agency field is going to be grayed out, and it's going to filter out all of the other vouchers, and it's going to show you all of the vouchers of you as a case management agency. We have to work with each state to figure out really how that screen is used right now and find a solution to replace the look at the flag by a key activity. So it's pretty much going to be whoever can create a referred voucher will be the administrative agency. So we're going to have to replace that. We haven't done that yet. There are a couple of screens like that are still using that flag. That's why we decided to keep that flag on the agency profile for a couple of months. But the intention is really to drop the flag on the agency profile to give you a little more flexibility. Like you may have some agencies that were doing some activities for ATR2 and are doing different activities for ATR3. The fact that we put it at the contract level will allow you that flexibility. And also for ATR4, you may have agencies that have different key activities that they can do.
And just one more follow-up question, Marion.
Sure.
So with key activities, can you change which key activities an agency is allowed to do after the fact? So say at one point you allowed them to do follow-up GIPRAs, and they had been entering follow-up GIPRAs for a month. You decide that this agency should not be doing follow-up GIPRAs, and you then just use the mover box and move it back over, and they won't be allowed to use the follow-up moving forward?
Yes. Yep, that's correct. It takes effect immediately. So as soon, and I'm going to show you the screens in a minute, but you know, if the user has the create GIPRA intake activity, the user will be able to see, or the agency will be able to see the add GIPRA intake link. If the user doesn't have that key activity, then this link is not going to show up. And I want to point out also, I just talked about it's users within an agency. So there is still at the agency level you have staff, and staff has system access, right? So the staff within the agency still needs to have the DIPRA full access role to be able to see the menu. But then when you get into the list screen, you need to have, your agency needs to have the key activities to be able to create this DIPRA interview. So I just wanted to point out that this is different from the system access at the staff level. This is at the contract level, so it's for any activities that are ACR3 related within an agency. And I'm going to show you all how all of that works. We went over, we saw that, okay, we have a contract with a care coordination agency. The care coordination agency can do all of these key activities. And I'm going to mute everybody again, sorry about that. Okay, so I have a contract with my care coordination agency that will be able to do all of the key activities. If you remember, that was the first contract we looked at, and this contract had all of the key activities. The second contract I had was with Provider Jones, and this one had none of the key activities. Then we had a third contract with a provider, which is a provider that can do create and edit a DIPRA discharge. And I have a fourth contract with that follow-up agency that can create and edit a follow-up. So I'm going to log in at each of these agencies, and I'm going to prove you how that works. I'm going to show you how all of that works. Oops. Okay, so now if everybody follows, now I'm going to be in the context of that care coordination agency. And the care coordination agency, you see that at the top of the screen, this is my context. I'm going to look for my client, to enter a client or to look for a client. I have a client called Sam, so I'm looking for that client. I have a client profile record created for that client. And then when I go into activity, I see that as the care coordination agency, I was able to create an intake for that client, and I'm able to edit that intake. I can edit that intake because I have this save and finish, and I see that all of that is editable for me. I was also able to create a DIPRA. You remember that this agency had all of the key activities, so this agency is able to create a DIPRA intake, a follow-up, and a discharge. Now, this care coordination agency has created consent with our 3 other agencies that we have a contract with. That care coordination agency will be able to create a referred voucher because we know that this agency has the referred voucher, the activity. So I have a referral here between the care coordination agency and the provider agency. I'm going to show you that I can create a voucher now. I have that link showing me that I can add an authorization for that client. So I'm going to do that quickly. This provider is going to provide some housing services to the client. And I can show you also that my care coordination agency for Sam Rogers, so this is the client we're in the context of today. Sam just had a DIPRA done. Sam has decided to go to this provider agency to receive housing, and he has also decided to go to that provider agency to receive another service that is spiritual support. So I have a voucher for 10 units of spiritual support with that provider agency. That provider agency is also going to be able to do the GIPRA discharge, right? So I have added that service here in the voucher. My care coordinator was able to create this referral voucher with my 3 agencies that we've been talking about. This third agency is the one that is going to do the follow-up, and I call that agency follow-up. To finish on my care coordination agency, the care coordination has this other key activity, which is create and edit local voucher. Here, this agency has this add new voucher link and was able to create a voucher and edit a voucher. So this is a local voucher that the care coordination agency was able to create for themselves for the care coordination service and the GIPRA assessment service that they are providing. So this shouldn't change anything. Like if you have agencies that are set as case management flag yes, this gives them, giving them all of the key activities will keep this agency working the exact same way as it's working right now. Okay? Now let me show you another agency that should still be working the way it's working right now. It's the provider journey. So I'm going to change the context, and now I'm in the context of the provider agency. As a provider, you all know what's the process of a provider. The provider is going to receive that referral, accept the referral. When this is done, the client record is created within the provider agency, and then the provider will be able to see that voucher that has been referred and will be able to accept or decline that voucher. Here you see that this is what I've done. I don't have any add voucher link because I cannot add a new voucher because I don't have the key activity. So I'm a provider agency that is just receiving a referral and a voucher. And you see you have this information message at the top, and you will see that in most of the screens for provider agencies that they cannot edit that voucher because they don't have that edit local voucher key activity. So this is just showing as an information at the top of the screen. This will be the same when I go to the activity. I see that the intake record was automatically created upon the referral, right? So the provider won't be able to edit because the provider doesn't have the edit ATR intake key activity. The provider can create an encounter. This is not a key activity. So I can create an encounter for that housing service that the client is receiving today. Okay. So this is the standard process, and I'm sure everybody's like, okay, I know how to do all of that. I just wanted to show you that if you're giving all of the key activities, it's going to be the same behavior as if the flag is set to yes on the agency profile, and if you set it to no, it's going to be, if you set it to none, none of the key activities is going to be the same behavior as if the flag on the agency profile is set to no. Enough said about that. Now what I want to show you is another agency that is the provider discharge. So as we had said earlier, that provider discharge, that provider agency has one key activity that is create and edit a GIPRA discharge. So when I log in as that provider agency, I will be able to see my SAM client that has been referred to me. I have a voucher, but I cannot add a new one, or I cannot edit that voucher because I don't have any key activities for that. However, the one key activity that we all know that this agency has is the add discharge key activity. So here is this one menu that is showing up here, this link, so that I can add a discharge interview for that client within that provider agency. The discharge is taking all of the days of services. I guess we have it on the same day, so it's not finding any services. This is my discharge record. I click finish, and now it is created. And that provider agency is not able to add any other records. They won't be able to create a referral voucher. They won't be able to do anything else. That's what they can do. Now, let's get in the context of my fourth agency, which is the follow-up agency. And this agency will be able to create a GIPRA follow-up. So, let me change my context if everybody is still following. Now I'm in the context of that follow-up agency. As a follow-up agency, I also received a referral with that Sam's Rogers. I have a referral. I have a voucher of $20 for an assessment, I guess. And within my activity, I'm also not able to edit the intake. However, when I get to the GIPRA screen, I'm able to add a GIPRA follow-up. So it's as easy as that. Based on the key activities, you're going to display the link or not. So it's just a matter of setting up your contracts correctly, based on the activities that you want each of your providers within your network to provide. So this is how the key activities work. As we were saying earlier, we are replacing that flag with the key activities, this ATR case manager flag. We are going to drop that flag eventually, and we want to do that in the next couple of months. Make sure that all of the references to that field are now replaced by the key activities. So this is a change that is taking effect right now in the January release. So as soon as your site will be updated with the January release, you will be able to see that and play with that on your training site. I haven't muted everybody, so do you have any questions, concerns, comments about this? For me. Don't hesitate. I'm here to answer your questions.
Looks good to me.
Good. Good. As long as it looks good and you understood it, then I'm happy. So the next thing I want to show, if you don't have any questions about the key activities, the next thing I want to show you is this ATR fund management. I actually wanted to start with that, but I jumped directly to the key activities. I need to be in the context of the contracting agency. And when you have at least one contract, one ATR contract, and the ATR fund management menu is going to become available. This is the ATR plan management screen that most of you have seen by now because you had to set up your service budget to start entering vouchers. And I'm going to mute everybody again. Sorry. So this is where you were able to set up your ATR2 funds for some of you and ATR3 funds for all of you. The fund management screen has little changes, and I'm going to point them out to you right now. You were used to see that you had a fund name with an effective date and expiration date and tied to the ATR3 plan. The administrative budget is a new field that has been added to that screen. And this corresponds to the budget that you have within your grant to spend on the administrative task. And the service budget, the one underneath, is the budget that you're going to be able to use on voucher services. So if you add up these two amounts, this is going to be the total amount of your grant that you are receiving for ATR3. You see that at the bottom here we have grant year. So based on the budget that you have for each of your grant years, you will be able to set up your budget by grant year. You can add a grant year. You can click on the profile to review the first one that I have created. So you have a grant year by fiscal year and 2011. So you just type in your fiscal year, and then the system is going to figure out the effective date and the end date of the grant year. So this is based on the federal fiscal year, which is the year of your grant for ATR3. You can type in your administrative budget that you have for your year one and your service budget that you have for year one. You also have a client target of a number of clients that you need to serve in that first year, right? What we are doing on that screen is we are showing you, anytime you go into the screen, the total encumbered amount and expended amount for that fiscal year. So this is just some informational, these are informational fields that will show you at any point of time within your fiscal year where do you stand on your budget. So this was your service budget. This is how much is currently encumbered and how much has been expended. The same for your total number of clients. Your target is 500, you are 8. So that gives you an idea of where you stand within your fiscal year target. So you will be able to set up your budget like that for each of the fiscal years. So here I have set up 4 years of budget, and the one on the header, this administrative budget field here on the ATR fund management header, is the sum of all of the admin budgets of all of the grant years. The same with the service budget. This is not editable anymore on the header because it's the sum of all of your years. Now the amount allocated, this hasn't changed. This is the field where you're going to enter the amount that you're setting as the overall cap of how much money can be spent on voucher, can be allocated to vouchers right now. So this still works the same way, where you will be able to allocate for the period of time that you need. Just put a dollar amount in there so that users won't be able to create vouchers for more than the amount that is set here. And you still have this total vouched amount that is showing you the total for all of the years, in the system, like how much is currently vouched. And this will allow you to update that amount allocated. When you see that it's getting close to your 150, you will be able to change it and raise that amount. So each time you go and you raise that amount or change that amount and you click Save, it will keep the history of the change that happened. So here we see they went from 150 to 170. And the same here with the total client number. So this is the total of all of your years and the actual number of clients. These are the actual GIPRA intakes that have been created in your system. So this gives you a snapshot in one place of all of these important numbers. We wanted to add these numbers in here because we know that for some of the CSAT monthly and quarterly reports, you need to enter the target number of clients and the actual number of clients, and we just wanted to store that somewhere in WITS so that we can include that in these reports, and you don't have to manually input these numbers anymore on these reports. So that was the idea, and also to have these grant years so that you can look at your budget a little more clearly on the at the grant year level. Now the question that you're going to ask me is, what about the fund record that I have already entered in there? It is going to be migrated to the grant year. So whatever you have entered currently on your training and production site, we are going to take these records. So if you had entered the fund, it's going to stay with the same date, but it is going to, we are going to do a data migration that is going to automatically create a first year of the grant. So after you deploy the January release to your training and to your production site, I would advise that you go to that screen again and that you go to edit the first grant year that will be created so that you can modify and add the right administrative budget in there and the right service budget. And then you will be able to go in and add the grant year for the following 3 years of your grant. Yeah, I suggest that you go and do that setup now so that you don't have to do it again. It's really a one-time setup, and you probably already know your budget for each of your years. So you can go in and do that setup as soon as the January release is updated on your training and production site. Does it make sense? I have unmuted everybody if you want to participate. Do you have any questions? If you feel like you're not confident in editing, sorry? I was saying that if you feel like you don't feel confident in editing that when you go live, you can contact your PM and they will be happy to help you do that setup. But that should be pretty straightforward. Just do it on training first, and then it's going to work on production when you do it. Okay?
Alrighty.
Good. Thanks. At least someone is participating. We have a very quiet crowd today. Okay, so that's the change to the fund management. So it's we added a couple of fields, and you're able to do the allocation by grant year. Good. So these two changes are the two changes that are impacting everybody. So everybody that is on the phone will have that change happen in their site when they update their site to the January release. The other two topics that I want to talk about is the RSS questionnaire and the recovery plan. These two are enabled in most of the instances, but not all of them. So if you don't want to see that, you can drop your phone. And I'm sorry about that. It's always difficult to have a lot of people on the phone and not have any interferences. But I was saying that I'm going to talk now about the RSS questionnaire and recovery plan, so whoever is interested in that can stay on the line. Oh, we dropped one person. Okay, so I'm going to be the care coordination agency again. And I'm going to go back to my client, Sam. So the care coordination agency is the agency that will be able to do that RSS questionnaire on that client. Again, this is going to be a decision that you will be able to make. The assessment menu that you see here, this is a new menu for most of you. This menu is tied to a role that is called assessment full access and assessment read-only. So if a user has that role, this user will be able to see that assessment menu, and under that assessment menu there is the RSS link. If you have provider agencies that shouldn't see that menu, just make sure you don't give them that role so that they won't see that menu and they won't create RSS questionnaires. So this is what the RSS questionnaire looks like. This questionnaire was an initiative of SAMHSA, Altaram, and ASAM. They have been working on that questionnaire for quite some time. And the version that is in the system is actually not a released final version of the questionnaire. We have here the latest version, but everybody needs to be aware that this is not published yet or it's not finalized. We're expecting some changes. We don't know the extent of the changes, but there will be probably some changes when it will be released. And we'll make sure that as soon as we hear about them, we make the changes in the system and we notify everybody about it. But we have something which we believe is very close to what will be the final version of that assessment. Hopefully, it's the exact same thing, but we will see. That questionnaire has an interviewer, so this is the staff who's doing that interview, and a date. And then you will notice that there is this box in brown that corresponds to what the interviewer is supposed to tell the client. This is a recovery-oriented questionnaire that is helping the clinician or whoever is conducting that interview on what to say, how to present the questionnaire to the client. You will notice that throughout the document. The fields in dark yellow are the required fields, so you need to fill that out to create the questionnaire. You notice that I click on the next menu, and now I see all of these menus here that correspond to different screens within the questionnaire. This is a pretty long questionnaire, so I'm not going to go over each of them, but this is how big it is. You have some fields that are in dark yellow that are required, and some fields that are in light yellow. Light yellow is probably a new concept for most of you or for some of you on the call. The light yellow fields are what we call state reporting required fields. That means that the record could be created if these light yellow fields are not entered, but the assessment record is not going to be completed until all of these questions have been answered. So the assessment is going to show with an in-progress status. And then you could choose to enforce the completion of that assessment somewhere down the line. Like you cannot do a deeper intake if you haven't completed an RSSQ, or you cannot do an encounter if you haven't completed an RSSQ. So you could put some business rules in place if you want to enforce the completion of that record. So here is the first question of my questionnaire. I'm able to answer these. The dark yellow field is something I really need to do today to save that record. So these are the goals of my clients. I can select several of them. I have selected 2 goals. Something that is specific about that questionnaire also that is maybe different for some of you that are very familiar with WITS. When you select other as a goal, the other description field is now going to be enabled, and you will be able to type these other goals. If I continue to the next question, the fact that I selected 3 goals, now I need to enter the priority of these goals. Which one is the most important for me? And you will notice also that for each of the questions in that questionnaire, you will be able to add comments as necessary. Each of the questions will have a guidance for the interviewer, the question, the answer, and a place for comments. So this is pretty much the model that assessment is using. You can go use that arrow to go to the next page. Arrow to go to the next page, and you see that you have all of these questions, and all of these questions that are in light yellow, right? If I click on Finish on that assessment, I'm back to the client activity list, and I see that this RSS questionnaire is in progress. I will be able to click on the details, and here it's showing me all of the questions that I'm missing. To have the day I answer all of these questions, then my questionnaire is going to be completed. So I can just go back, click Review, and go through the pages. So I can use that arrow, or I can go down the menu if I want to access different screens to add the questions, the answers to these questions. Until the end, and up until the end, you have these interviewer notes so that you know exactly what you have to tell the client. And thanks for speaking with me today. This is the RSSQ assessment for whoever wants it. Do we have any questions about that questionnaire or comments?
Marion, this is available for everybody. It's just assignable by that role.
No, this will be available only to the states that requested it.
Okay.
And I don't think Maryland has it.
Okay. It's good to know that it's there, though.
It is there, and it has been turned on for most of the ATR3 grantees.
Okay.
If you use it or not, you know, I don't know if everybody is going to enforce it, but actually it is there, and it is a good tool for recovery assessment. Like that, I think SAMHSA has been pushing some of the grantees to use that tool, even if it's not the final version yet. I really hope this final version comes out soon, so we can all have a complete version in there. Do we have any other questions? Okay, we're doing very good on time, much better than yesterday. Okay, so there is a question from Dusty who doesn't have a microphone, so I'm going to read her question to everybody. Is there a pattern to the fields that are in light yellow? What is the thinking about why they have been answered but not right away? This assessment, the first stage to really really wanted that assessment was Hawaii, and I guess they worked with us on which fields to make required. You always want an interviewer and a date in there. And then you have, I guess, the only required field really in there is the goals. So you need to at least have a goal and 3 goals to save that record. Then the way these light yellow fields work for any assessment in WITS is just that you may not be able to answer all of these questions with the client right away. And so by just allowing you to save the record when you have these very few required fields, then it allows you to go back to that assessment and to answer the different questions. If the client had to go, or if he couldn't answer the questions, the next time he comes, he will be able to do it. Then that's how using this light yellow field. If for you, Dusty, if in New York you want to collect some additional information that you feel will be very much required in order to save an assessment, we can change them from light yellow to dark yellow for your configuration of the WITS VMS. So when you have it on training site, just go and play with it, and if you identify that there are some important fields that you want dark yellow, let Sean know, and we can make sure that this happens for you. You're welcome. Any other questions about the RSS? So if you're on the line and you didn't request to have the RSS turned on in your configuration, but now you're very interested, just contact your PM and let him or her know that you want it, and we can create a work item to have that done in a subsequent release. Now the next topic is the recovery plan. The recovery plan is also something that my care coordination agency is doing here in my scenario. This is also tied to a role. We have a role that is called recovery plan, full access, and read-only. And that role is going to give the staff user access to that menu. So if you have a recovery plan full access, you will be able to add a recovery plan. If you have a recovery plan read-only, you will just be able to see the recovery plans that have been done. So if you have some providers that shouldn't be seeing that menu, just make sure you don't give them that role. So this works the same as the assessment, and works the same as for the encounter also. You have a role to give access to that menu. So these are things that you know about. Okay, so let's create a recovery plan together today. And we have a lot of time, but no, it's not gonna be that long. Don't worry. And I'm going to mute everybody again. Sorry. Okay. Joe has actually left the call, but Maryland is the state that funded the development of that module. And we decided to turn it on for ATR because most of you as ATR grantees were interested in that module. We made a couple of tweaks to adapt it for ATR, but this recovery plan has been created as following the model of the treatment plan of WITS and following the guidelines of the ROSC. So this ROSC initiative from Connecticut, this is what has been driving most of the development and the screen for that recovery plan. The recovery plan has a profile here where you could have a name and a period, so you can change that name. It says recovery plan by default. We thought that would be. You have a period, so a start date and an end date, and you will be able to do some reviews on your recovery plan. So this may be a process that you have in place that once a month, once a week, whenever you are reviewing the recovery plan and make changes to that plan. So this is just allowing you to track when the next review is done. If the client has participated to that recovery plan development, yes or no. I'm going to the next screen, and on that next screen I have the continuing care overview, where I will have to select at least one high-risk situation and recovery activity to get started with my recovery plan. I believe that these are coming from the ROSC as well. So if there are any of these drop-down lists that you will need to edit, we will need to give you access to do that. But currently it's following the ROSC guideline. The days to the next checkup. If you know that your client is going to come to visit the care coordinator once a week, once a month, or whichever timeline you have, you can put what is the next day of the checkup. This is just informational right now. It is not tied to anything, but we were thinking that you could have a homepage alert, a notification that will alert the care coordination when the client is due for the next checkup. So this could show up on the homepage alert. So this field could be used for that. For my recovery plan, I'm able to add also a continuing care team. So I can have a team to work on that client. I can add a new member. This screen, for some of you who know how WITS works, this is the same screen as what we use for the treatment plan, where we can add a treatment team. We can add a team member. The team member for this recovery plan could either be a staff or a non-staff. It could be a contact, as you have collateral contact, so that could be somebody from the family, somebody outside of the agency that will be part of that recovery team for the client. So to add that person to the team, you just need to select the name. If you don't have the person selected or nothing shows on the drop-down list, you can click on Add Contact, and it brings you to the collateral contact screen under the client profile. You can add the contact and click Save, and it brings you back to that treatment team screen. You select the relationship, and you are going to set this to yes, so that that team member will be part of the recovery team for that client. So I'm adding here that one team member, and I'm going to add another one. This one is going to be a staff. So this is going to be the case manager for the client. Okay, that's the relationship that the staff has with the client. And it is going to be a recovery team member. Now you're going to ask me, what is this deny access to client record? This is a standard treatment plan functionality, but that could be used here if you want to. If you are denying access to the client record to that staff, that means that the next time the staff is going to go on the client list, that staff won't be able to see the client list. So this is a feature that has been used by that is used by WITS users that really like the fact that they can exclude a staff within an agency to see a client. So you just know that you have that feature here if you want to use it on that. But this is set to no and is defaulted to no most of the time, all the time. So I'm adding that staff to the team member, to the team for that client. So that client within a recovery plan, we have 2 team members. You can also add collateral contact, so you all know how to do that. You can add a new contact that brings you to the collateral contact and bring you back here. Now I'm clicking on the next. arrow, and it brings me to a life domain. The recovery plan is composed of one or several life domains, and this, I believe, is also part of the ROS. So for my life domain, what are my resources, strengths, and skills? I'm a good rugby player. I used that example yesterday, and I had a lot of compliments about it, so I'm going to use it again. My barrier and challenges are, I don't have a team, I'm not sociable, and I am out of shape. This is my life domain. I can add goals. I can have one or several goals for each life domain. The goal has a status. My goal in this area is to find a team. I will achieve this goal when I'm able to talk to someone. Okay, that's not exactly what I had yesterday. The project is achievement date. So when do I plan on achieving that goal? I'm planning on achieving that goal at the end of the month. That's me as the client. I am building my recovery plan, and that's what I'm saying, right? And for each of the goals, I have objectives. How, what is my objective for my goal? My objective will be to be sociable, like contact a team. The status is in progress. I could have another objective for that goal, and that will be to go for a run, get in good shape, right? Once a week. And so for each of them, what I wanted to show you is that also you have action steps. So, these are your action steps. So to achieve my goal, I will do the following things. So that's where I will go to a practice, and I have a status. Okay. So my example is maybe not as good as it. So this is what we have. For each of these objectives, I have action steps. And at the objective level, you see that there is this Add Plan Service link. This brings you to the screen where you can add services, the planned services for my recovery plan. This drop-down list here is giving you the list of all of the services that have the ATR flag set to yes. So for most of you that are using WITS only for ATR, this will be all of the services that you set up. For the ones of you that are using WITS for other things than ATR, these will be only the ATR services that are going to show up, because we are within an ATR intake, and this is a recovery plan within my ATR 3 intake. So here I'm able to select which service that we are planning on providing to that client within that intake. So it will be 5 sessions of assessment monthly, let's say. So I'm just adding that service, and that service is tied to that one objective. If I click on Finish, it brings me to the list of all of the planned services for that recovery plan for the client. And at the time you're creating that recovery plan, it's time to decide which services the client wants to receive, or which services are going to be provided to the client or are planned for that client. So that client will need 10 sessions of virtual support monthly. You're adding that service, and you can associate that service to an objective. So these are the objectives that I have, and I can tie that to the objective. And I can add more services as necessary. Now you've seen me creating all of these things, and you were lost. But here is the solution for you. There is the plan outline. So this is the last page of my recovery plan. And this is giving me a snapshot. It's giving me a tree view of all of these things that I have answered. I have created a recovery plan. I have one life domain. For that life domain, I have a goal. For that goal, I have 2 objectives, and I have an action step. You can always use that screen as some kind of a landmark to be able to go back into your recovery plan and make some edits to it. So if you want to add an action step, you just click Add Action Step, and you can add one from there. If you want to review your life domain and make changes to it, you can just go in and do that, and now click Save, and it brings you back to that outline. So this gives you the view of everything that you've done on that client. Now, when you have created the recovery plan, there is this checkup history that I haven't talked about yet. So when you create your recovery plan, you have that link that allows you to create a new checkup. The checkup is going to be recorded each time the care coordinator is talking with the client. So it could be a weekly visit or a monthly visit, or how often the care coordinator sees the client. You will be able to enter a checkup history, a checkup record. The checkup has a date and a staff that is doing that checkup. The staff field here, if you know the name of the staff, I think I have a staff, it's called Joe or John, you know. I'm not going to type it then, or Joe. Yeah. You can type the name, and then you click on the magnifying glass, and then it's finding the staff. If you don't know the name of the staff and you want to see everybody, you just click on the magnifying glass, and it's going to give you the list of all of the staff. So this is called the on-demand drop-down list. This is a way of searching more efficiently on the staff, because these lists could get very long and not manageable. The checkup, you have these 3 results here that you can use. So the client participated, and here we're recording the time that this started. And here are all of the questions that are asked within that recovery checkup. So these are free text fields that you can enter based on what the client is telling you. None of them are required, as you can see. So you can look at it and see if you want to require any of them, and we can do that for you. These are the type of questions that are here. The client will be answering some of them. You will enter comments as necessary, right? So these are all of the questions. This is coming from my continuing care overview, the one I created earlier. So it's asking me all these questions based on that. The protective factor, the section where I also have answers. So if the client does several checkups, if the client comes once a week, then you will be able to see the response of last week just for you as an informational method, an information field. So you can see if that varies or not, and you can enter whichever comments you want. Based on all of these answers, you will be able to calculate a score for that one checkup. So you click on that link here, calculate score, and it gives you the risk factor, the protective factor, and the overall risk total. So I guess this one is okay for now. Now the next section we have is the case management. Here you see that you have the planned services. When we did the recovery plan, we have attached 3 services planned as planned services for that client, right? You will be able to ask the client, oh, what did you receive? And based on the answer of the client, you can drag, select, and then select these 2 fields and move them to the service received section. So this is, again, that checkup based on a discussion with the client. The client may also have received services outside of ETR, services that are funded by some other funding source that the care coordinator may need to be aware of. So for that, we have created that new list that is called additional services. This is available under the code table editor, and the name of that code table is called Checkup Services. And you will be able to ask the client which services he has received and record that in each of the recovery plans. The possible stress, this is also a field that is in the code table editor that you will be able to set which kind of stresses the client can select. I'm answering all of these questions to the next contact, and I'm going to click Save. When I'm doing that, I'm clicking Save. Then it is recording the end time of my interview. I'm going to click on Add New Encounter. You see that link is showing now? That means that now I will be able to enter an encounter for that service that I just provided to the client. So based on the voucher that I have a voucher for care coordination services, right? So I'm going to now be able to enter that encounter for these 5 minutes that I just spent doing that checkup with the client. So this is pre-populated for you with today's date, with the start time and end time of your recovery checkup, and the duration. These can be edited by the user as necessary. If you spend more than 5 minutes, the user will be able to change that. And then how many units is that? This will be 1 unit. So I will be able to bill for that. So it brings me back to my recovery checkup. Within my recovery plan, this is my recovery plan, now I see that I have 1 checkup that happened. And each time a checkup happens, you can click on Add New Checkup and do that checkup on the client. Now the recovery plan itself has a status of active, not signed off. You can decide to sign off of that on that recovery plan, and this is if all of the team members of that plan have approved it, then you're going to have it as active, signed off. Once the plan is active and signed off, you can still create these checkup records, but you are able to perform a review, or you could create a brand new version of that plan. If I click on Perform a Review, it is now bringing me to that new screen that is the Recovery Plan Review for Sam Rogers. This is a review for a certain period, and this is the date of the review. My review is now pending. I'm going to that plan outline screen that is showing me, okay, this is what my recovery plan looks like. If at the time of review I want to make changes, I will click on that link here to modify the plan. And now all of this becomes editable. I can go into that one goal and I can click on modify and I will change it because this one is now going to be completed. I can go and I want to add comments. So I'm adding comments about this objective and I'm not sure which one it was, so it's not going to make much sense. So now you can see that the fact that I added a comment, this is showing in yellow. The fact that I modified the goal 1, it is showing in red. If I want to comment on that objective, we're good. I can comment on the action step. Yep, that's you can add also. So you can make new things. If you want to add a new goal, then it's going to be shown in green. So these are all of the changes that you can make to your recovery plan when you're doing your review. So now we have a recovery plan review, and you can access that through that menu that is underneath the recovery plan. The other thing that you can do on an active signed-off recovery plan is that you can create a brand new version. If you create a brand new version, it is going to I need to make sure that I cannot do a review and so I need to apply the change. So I just did that review and I need to apply the changes of that review to my plan. Okay, so now it's applied to my plan. I'm going to do the last step. So by applying these changes, now I have a new plan record that has to be signed off because we made changes to it, right? So my team is going to sign off, and then I can create a new version. If I don't want to go through the review process, I will start a brand new recovery plan that is going to be a copy of the first one. So the first one is now going to be an old version, and my new version is now this active not signed off. And if I go to the outline, I will be able to see that this is now my new plan, and I can go and make changes to that plan. That's a new version of my recovery plan. So this is what the recovery plan looks like. Do you have any questions for me? Did I lose everybody? Is everybody awake?
Yes.
What? Yeah, everybody's awake?
It seems very familiar to, a treatment plan with different labels, so it's not completely new. In terms of, like, there's stuff in this system that is brand new to me, but this looks like, okay, it's a variation on something I'm used to. So
yes.
It should be fine.
Good. Yeah, it's pretty much using the model of the treatment plan in WITS with some of the ROSC elements added to it. So, yeah, if you're familiar with the treatment plan, then that shouldn't be too difficult. So I was able to hear you a little, Dusty.
You know what I did? I switched to the phone. I decided to switch to the phone. Because I didn't realize when I was using my headphone that I couldn't speak.
Good, good.
Okay. Marion, in regard to the, before I forget, the fund management screens that you were showing us, will there be any sheets that come out that talk about what to do there? Or are we just going to, will we have to wait for the new documentation, the whole new, will there be like a revised manual
Yeah. So what we're going to do is after that call, I will make sure we will post the recorded version of that demo plus the user guide, the changes for this section that we're talking about today. This is going to be available also for you on the work forum.
Okay.
And this is going to also be added to your documentation specific for you in New York. So you will have that added to your user guide as well.
Thank you.
No problem. So this is valid for everybody. Everybody will have documentation to be able to review that and play with that when you have your training site updated with all of these changes.
Okay.
So now that I've shown it to you, you will all be able to do it on your own. So you have the documents to help you go over these steps again. And if you feel like listening to it again, you can do that as well.
Okay.
So do we have any other questions as we have everybody still on the line? I would be happy to answer them. No? Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. This was the quick review of the changes for the January release. We wanted to do that demo because this impacts most of the ETL3 grantees. So this is what is new this month, and we'll continue doing these sessions as we have more changes coming up.
Okay. Thanks, Marion.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.